Trust is the social capital that makes our communities work, or not. Initiatives of Change USA, often referred to as IFC, has an 80-year track record of peace building and conflict transformation. We work to forge partnerships across race, class, religion, and politics. As a result, we are in a unique position to nurture opportunities where trust and positive change can thrive. With its national network rooted in Richmond, Virginia, IFC USA equips leaders today to build trust in our diverse communities through a process of personal change, inclusive dialogue, healing historical conflict, and team building.
There's a concept called social capital, which is how you gather the gifts and talents of the community together. But a lot of authors now are stating that trust is social capital, because without trust you can't have cooperation, without trust you can't have collaboration, and so you can't pull the resources of a community together without trust.
Emerging from the work of a 20th century American, Frank Bookman, this trust-building movement is now active in 38 countries. Over the past 80 years, it has fostered reconciliation of post-war France and Germany, as well as between Japan and her neighbors. It supported peaceful transitions to independence in several African countries, including Kenya and Morocco. In Brazil, IFC tackled poverty and social injustice, and it mediated industrial relations in the U.S. Today, IFC's programs in India train government and industry leaders. In Nigeria, Muslims and Christians work to bridge divides, and women's peace circles build trust in Egypt. Youth leaders are trained in Taiwan. The foundations of dialogue and democracy in Eastern Europe are supported in countries such as Moldova, Romania, and Ukraine. Here in the U.S., focused work to address the legacy of a painful racial history is ongoing.
IFC has a network of respect all around the world, and there are people all over the world who can see this continuity of values and practices regardless of where they live because of IFC.
What uniquely qualifies IFC to meet the needs of our nation today is an expertise and a track record and the tools it provides to deal with divisions.
And I think IOC is playing a critical role in terms of having boots on the ground where people are in real communities with real people, not just talking about the issue, but helping to provide people the skills so that they can do things about it.
Through the course of its community-based outreach over several decades, IFC's work has been based on 4 key principles. Starting with yourself, healing history, engaging everyone in honest conversation, and building a team. This is not a process that begins at one point and ends at another. Each principle can feed into the others. Nor is it an approach that is one and done. It's important to keep revisiting each step to make sure progress continues.
Starting with myself ultimately means not pointing my finger at someone else and expecting them to change, but taking an honest look at myself, kind of like a personal inventory, and seeing what behavior I need to redirect or maybe apologies I need to offer. It's not the easiest thing, but I've seen it make a huge difference. It's also not a one-time thing, but I've seen when I'm honest with myself, it's easier to be honest with others, and in turn that equips me to be a more solid leader and member of my community.
I am absolutely certain that the input of personal change is what brings about the output and outcome of communal change.
The structures that we have today, the barriers to opportunity, many of those are associated with patterns that have a historic basis. Something as fundamental as residential segregation is an outgrowth of a history of racism and denial of the humanity of a whole group of people. So it's very important to connect our efforts to increase opportunity today to the reality of the historic basis of those divides.
I think IFC still has the most profound approach in regard to history. You don't just begin dialogues on a subject like race as though you're doing it as though it's all happened right now. There's always a deep historical context that some of which is known, some of which is unknown. It oftentimes is hard for people to talk about it. It's hard to share your own depth of feeling and sensitivity and passion about it, and expect to be heard equally on both sides. And IFC has, in my experience, pioneered that and shared that like no other organization that is engaged in the kind of work that we do.
Honest conversation happens when we share our own truths and experiences. It sounds easy, but it doesn't happen very often, because it seems quicker or easier to say what the other person wants to hear, or what you think they want to hear, or to speak to your own agenda. But having an honest conversation requires being honest with yourself first, and in turn others.
Because you go deep enough, then you find that the elements of trust begin also to come up. And without that trust, then people will never tell you the whole story or the whole truth. So you really, you don't just meet people and engage people and immediately trust each other. There are steps that have to come before that, in order to put people in a space where they feel safe enough to really share the deepest that is in their hearts.
But you have to take brave individuals who are willing to sit in the same room, get past the level of discomfort, and begin to talk.
The process of building diverse teams isn't easy, but without everyone there, the impact isn't as strong as it could be. We need all the voices, we need all the people. It matters.
I am deeply moved by the spiritual underpinnings of initiatives of change. That is, their ability to bring people together to embrace their common humanity.
And when I come to Richmond, I see the way in which initiatives of change is enmeshed in the city's fabric. That it's an interracial group dealing with these issues. It's not a token black person or a token white person. It's really a mixed group dealing with Richmond.
Some of the concepts that we learned through IFC, like othering, rather than just thinking about race, in particular race in my community where there's conflict, is a very useful concept. The idea that there are all kinds of ways that we separate ourselves from other people is going to be useful in thinking in our community, in our university, in dealing with the issues of race.
So you have to work together to bring people to a place where the hearts are engaged in healing. And when those hearts become engaged in healing, human beings then produce new structures.
If you don't have a network, if you don't have a fellowship, it's awfully hard to make change. You cannot do it on your own.
Today, Initiatives of Change USA provides tools and training to increase the capacity of communities to overcome divisions of race, culture, economics, politics, and religion. This often begins with community leaders working together to review the historical narrative of their region, helping transform relationships. Initiatives of Change calls this walking through history. IFC also nurtures the next generation of leaders through applied studies in peacemaking and trust building in the U.S. and at IFC's international conference centers.
Real social change often takes decades, sometimes centuries. And it's wonderful when you have institutions like Initiatives of Change that has gone the distance and is committed to going the distance, because it's the values that drive the work. It's not the immediate convenient issues that surface. It's the underlying values of our collective humanity and our right to be heard and to bring about justice. And so I'm really inspired by the long and persistent history of Initiatives of Change, and I anticipate that they'll be working at this until the job is done.
The people of IFC work every day to nurture sustainable change at the local level, believing in its potential impact nationally and internationally. Many in our communities would rather let others do the hard work of healing the wounds that keep us apart. But IFC offers you a unique opportunity to build community where you live. We have the tools that empower you to make a difference today. It's hard work, but it's incredibly rewarding. Join this movement for change and contribute to a better world for tomorrow. Remember, the life you change won't just be your own.